In this tutorial, we are going to go through a hands-on tutorial which shows you how to extract data from a CSV file, apply business rule to transform it, and then load the new data into a different CSV file which we will create. By the end of this tutorial, you will be able to create a ETL pipeline using only open source resources. No need for cloud subscription for this tutorial. We will cover how to use Pandas, which is one of the most powerful library in Python for data manipulation. In this tutorial, you will learn multiple things like extract data from a CSV file, transform the data by filtering, cleaning, and aggregating it, and at last, load the new data into a new file for further use cases. This is a practical hands-on which you can easily follow along on your machine using any text editor or IDE like VS Code. I recommend you use VS Code for this tutorial. Let's get started. For the purpose of this tutorial, I will create a customer transaction CSV file through hard-coded values. In real life cases, you might be downloading the CSV file from some sources or from some API. You might be getting the data. Let's go on. Okay. Let's see if this works. Okay, so this is working. Now what we will do, we'll just import pandas as pd. After this, we'll run this. So the pandas is imported as pd. Panda is a powerful data manipulation tool, guys. After which, if you do not have pandas installed in your system, you can just do pip install pandas and it should work. I have already installed, so I will not be doing that. Now we have just created this file. If you see here, we have this file here, right, with all the hard-coded values. So we will just be loading that file into a data frame. So that will go something like df equal to pd.read CSV. So here we are reading a CSV file. So pd.read CSV will be a good method for it. Otherwise, if you have an Excel file, you can do pd.read Excel. So since it is in the same folder, we'll just paste this name and it should work. It should properly load the data. Let's see, df is loaded. There you go, guys. We have successfully loaded the data, and it's look nice. Now that we have successfully loaded the data, the next step would be to apply our business logic, the rule of transformation we need to apply. The first step will include filtering the data. Let's go and see how this works. Let's say we want only those transactions which has purchase as their transaction type. Let's say this df. So it have multiple transaction type. We want only those rows where the transaction type is purchase. That would be our first transformation. This is the kind of filter we are applying. Let's just copy paste it. Did I write it right? Seems right. Okay. So this should do it. This is the comment we have given. Always, it's a good practice to give comments so that later on, if someone else is working over your code or executing your code, he has a pretty good understanding of what's happening just by reading the codes. It's just a good practice. Let's do this. df equal to df. We will give it's already suggesting us some columns. Let's select the one we need and we will give it purchase. Always remember, guys, that a data frame column type is case sensitive. It's not like SQL. It's case sensitive. You have to get the case correct. So I think this should do it. Yeah, this is correct. Okay, so let's execute it. Now df has only those rows which has transaction type as purchase. Wonderful. Always remember guys, if you do not allocate this filter again to df, it will not write until you give in place equal to true, obviously. So it's a good practice to either give in place in true, or if you want to have the filter data in a new data frame, you can give maybe df2, df3, df filter, something like that. Let's go on. Let's say our business requirement require us to only monitor those rows where the transaction amount is not null. In that case, we again need to put a filter where we will filter out those transactions where the value is null. Let's go and see how it can be done. It's already suggesting us some columns. So this time, sorry about that, this time we have to take transaction amount. So transaction amount dot not null, do it. Other than that, we can put one more check that no transaction amount is negative. That would be a good check as well. I think this will do it. Let's see if this works. It seems to work properly. And now we have only positive amounts, no nulls, no negative amounts. That's wonderful, guys. Let's give it a comment as a good practice. Wonderful. This looks pretty. Okay. Sometimes what happens, guys, the date which is given might be not date. This can be string. In that case, a very good practice is to convert these values into a date type. Let's just see how we can do that. Let's give it a column converting transaction. Let's copy paste. Values into date type. So how can we do that? If you know the answer, just pause it and type in the comment box. I'll sure give you a heart. So we'll pick this one and we will do pd dot date time. Can you see date time here? Okay, it's to date time. Alright, and then we will give the same column inside the brackets. Okay, I think this should do it. I think this worked, and let's just see what's the value it's giving now. It's still the same. You can see it still looks same, but now the type is date type. Okay. So why is it important to give a date type column, convert it into a date time? Let's say you need to compare it here. Let's say you just need to keep data which are greater than the year 2000. You cannot do that comparison with string and date. You need to convert into date, only then you can make the comparison. Hope that helps. And now what we will do, we will try to calculate the total amount is spent by each customer. This will be an aggregate function. Just follow along and see how it's done. Let's give it a name, summary df. I think that will be fine. Summary df will be a good name. Now that we are doing aggregation, we are not overwriting the df which we already had. Okay, let's go about it. Let's use group by, and over what we are grouping. If you are familiar with SQL, it's very similar. We are grouping it by column customer ID, and then what we will do, we will over that group by we will make a sum of transaction ID. It will just group by customer ID, and for each customer ID it will, let's say for customer 1 3 transaction came, it will just sum it. Okay, let's give it transaction amount. Hope I'm not making any spelling mistake. We'll find out soon. Let's just do reset index. Seems like there's no mistake. Okay. Okay, see, customer ID C001 made a total transaction amount of this much and this much. This is pretty good. Let's see what was the values in DataFrame. So unfortunately there was only 3 values left, so the transaction amount is same, but if the values were, let's say customer ID would be coming multiple times, then the value would be different. It will get the sum would have happened. Hope you understand that. Let's move forward. Congratulations guys, we have already completed 2 parts of this tutorial, which is ET, extract and transform. The latter part is load. Keep in mind guys that this tutorial is just for you to understand the ETL structure. This is also a ETL process, but in practical world ETL usually happens between different cloud services. Let's say you are fetching data from Snowflake into AWS, or maybe intermediately you are running some Databricks transformation and then again loading it to S3 bucket or ADLS. That is what happened in real scenario. But just for a practice of understanding, the dog is barking, I'll just wait a bit. But for the understanding that what is ETL, just to get this thing clear up in your brain, this is a pretty good thing that will clear up that ETL is just extracting the data from a source, transforming it, and ultimately loading it. So without any further ado guys, let's get to the last step of the ETL, which is loading our data, transform data into a new CSV file here. So let's again check our result. The result we got, the result data frame, which is summary. Okay, so in between I included year as well, but year is not a good indicator for this tutorial. So let's just drop it, and you will learn how to drop columns as well. Let's do in place equal to, that should do it. I think I made some mistake. Anyways, instead of this we can do this. Always remember guys, Python is case sensitive. This should have dropped it. Great, this is our final result. In real scenarios, you generally need to do a lot more transformation on a lot bigger data. But for the basic understanding of ETL, this is pretty good. Let's go forward. Let's call it load. Just a large step. So let's do it. It will go about, we'll use .toCSV, which is a method for data frames object, and let's give it a name, customer purchase summary, right? Customer purchase summary .csv. That should do it. Wonderful, guys. We have this data exported here. Here you can see it. So this is the data we exported. Great. Congratulations, everybody. We have just built a complete ETL pipeline using Python and Pandas. This workflow is something that you can adopt to more complex tasks. This gives you a very solid understanding of the fundamentals. The same concept, the same flow can be also implemented in, let's say, for large complex data set. Loading, cleaning, filtering, transforming, and ultimately pushing it to some place. Maybe S3, maybe ADLS, maybe some other data warehousing solution. Hope this tutorial helped you guys. If you made it to the end of the tutorial, I recommend you subscribe. Until next time, happy coding.